a stem cell from a person when they're 4, does it contain the same capability, functionality, and vitality as the stem cell at 70? I mean, is
So
there
it's
something to be said for banking them earlier for later use?
that is the most common question I get. And, we have studied, we have lots of people who bank here. So lots of different ages, and
Sure.
we look at cells on a regular basis, and we're treating lots of people. So we have a really good idea of what the differences are. And I can tell you it's negligible.
Really?
You're taking just because you have a young person, let's take a step back and look at the definition of a stem cell. Okay. So a stem cell, when I say that they're like maintenance cells,
Yeah.
they maintain the body, they actually have a characteristic to be a stem cell. You have to have the ability to transform, okay? Or the technical term is to differentiate. So if you picture a stem cell as a cell without any identity, then it needs to become something. So it has to have the ability to become a blood cell, or become a bone cell, or become a hair cell, or become a heart cell. It's got to have the ability to transform.
Right.
Right. So if your ability to transform is different as you age, then it may not be a stem cell anymore. So by definition, in order to be a stem cell, you still have to possess the qualities to be a stem cell. Not only that, there are other functions too. Stem cells have a variety of functions, but you can actually measure the identity of a stem cell based on the cell markers. And there are sophisticated pieces of equipment you can buy to measure the markers on each cell to verify that they're stem cells, which FDA actually requires us to do at every lot release that we do. But you know that you have a stem cell because it can do these various things. So when it comes to age, going back to age, if you have stem cells and you're 99 years old, then by definition, those stem cells are still doing their job. It's just that there are very few of them probably in circulation. A very common place that people would find stem cells was traditionally bone marrow.
Right.
Because bone marrow makes your stem cells that are in your circulation, and it creates new blood as well. So your bone marrow is like the first place that you naturally go to go get stem cells. Fun fact, when the atomic bomb went off in Hiroshima, the Japanese doctors would take bone marrow from healthy people and give it to irradiated people, and somehow they were living. At the time, they didn't really know why, but they were living. And this is like kind of the early stages of bone marrow transplant.
Right.
Now, for cancer patients, it's sort of a very common therapeutic method, because the bone marrow from healthy people are supposed to create healthy blood.
Right.
Okay, that's why we do this. But yeah, bone marrow, unfortunately, though, is very much tied to age and condition. So if you were older and had heart disease, and if I pulled your bone marrow, chances are I'd find nothing. Okay. So imagine trying to run a commercial operation saying, we're going to find stem cells for you, and can't find it. Like 50% of the time, it would make for bad business.
Right.
So you have to figure out, these are kind of questions you have to answer on a commercial level. Is there a way to find stem cells consistently from every single person that walks through your door? And apparently there is, and it's called fat.
Yep. Well, I have enough.
And it's much more consistent than any other source that you would take.
And is that just because it's storing stem cells like other things that fat stores, or why fat?
I mean, think about fat. Like it's very hard to get rid of, right? For most people. And the reason is it's very well vascularized. It's very well fed, right? And there's a purpose to it. Fat is extremely important to protect your insides.
Right.
It's a very important organ. And so your body takes it very seriously. Now, when you're getting older, you've noticed that when you age, it's harder to keep on the weight. It's sort of a natural function of the aging process too. And so we know that fat happens to contain these stem cells. Now, I don't think they're meant to circulate. I don't think they're meant to go and fix places. They're just meant to keep fat alive.
Right.
Alive. They're just like stuck in there. But those are the ones that we take. Those are the ones that we grab because we know they're in there pretty much in any patient that we come across, and then we take those and we basically create unlimited quantities of them.
So give me an example, some examples, because I was going through some of this earlier, and it's fascinating of the use, and specifically, can you tell me a little bit more about a patient named Leo? Because you have some video out there of Leo, and just as an example of the utility, use, and potential that you folks are exploring.
Before we looked at disease, we really had to figure out, the ultimate question was, can we create really unlimited vats of stem cells for every single person? Okay. Yeah. Once we were able to establish that, then it became, well, now what's the fun stuff? What can we use all these cells for? Right. If we have an unlimited supply of cells, now what can we do? Now the questions that sort of everyone asks, like, can people with spinal cord injury walk again? All of these questions now start to become actual realities when you have
that's amazing
unlimited sources of cells.
Right.
It's just that no one's done it yet. No one's tried it yet. So we just can't answer that yet, but we're going to try.
Right.
And so I take on a lot of difficult cases because I think they're worthwhile to try. We work directly with the FDA to do what are compassionate use exemptions. So we apply for that individual based on that individual's case. We create a protocol for that individual. So our dear friend Leo is a 13-year-old child with cerebral palsy, very severe case of cerebral palsy. He was, in his medical records say he has no cognitive function, which is, one of the worst cases, and completely wheelchair bound. And he was in a very difficult situation because he had problems with feeding. He's on a feeding tube, so he can't eat. And he was sort of an emergency state. This is the reason why we decided to take on his case. And so when you look at someone like that, you have to ask yourself, well, how well are you going to make them? Yeah. Like, how much are you going to really help, and what are the expectations of the family when you don't even know, right? Will their son walk again? Will their son talk? Will their son be able to eat? Like, all these questions are sort of completely up in the air. You don't know, right? But you talk to the family and you say, here's what we're willing to do. We're gonna do 8 treatments, okay? And when I talk about the kind of the number of treatments, it's very significant because in the world of stem cells and cell therapy, remember, when you're limited to the number of cells, that automatically means you're limited to the number of treatments.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So if you can't treat something with a single injection, then you're kind of out of luck.
Yeah.
So things like osteoarthritis can maybe be done in a single knee injection. But when you talk about diseases like this, it's sort of, okay, how many is it going to take to actually see this therapeutic difference that's meaningful? Right. And with Leo, I really didn't know, but we asked for 8. We got permission, and we started treating him. Right. He started at 53 pounds when we got him. He was so weak that we couldn't. And the goal was actually, we're going to get him to 80 pounds so that he can have the back surgery he needs, so he could sit up straight in a wheelchair. That's all. That was sort of the goal.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be success, and that'd be great. Well, fast forward now, he's, I think, 76 pounds last time I checked, and he is communicating by computer. He can point to what he wants to eat. He's eating Cheetos, self-feeding himself. And it's night and day, I think, for him, the family. But again, he still has a long ways to go, and we're willing to continue that because we need to document how this works, even in these individual cases. They're not controlled large trials, but how would you even do that in this sort of context? You have to do this individually and really figure out, well, what is the max? Yes. Right? Where are we going to get to? So with Leo, we have an additional 24 treatments. He'll get 32 stem cell treatments over the course of 2.5 years when we're done with this. Yeah. So I'll tell you what happens with that.
And I'm going to follow up with you. I want to hear that story.